Hello everyone, welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for another edition of YBMcast, powered by Game 7 Baseball. Game7Baseball.com. Got some tournaments up on the old website. There it is. What'd you call it?
Interwebs.
On the interwebs. I love that. Yes. That thing. Right?
The .coms.
Yeah, the .coms, Game 7 Baseball, got their schedule working up. We're going to have, after Thanksgiving, we're going to have Dave Pennyback talking some more baseball at the first week of December. Always fun talking baseball with the Game 7 guys. Do a great job. Check out what's going on. They got some, Game 7 Baseball has their tournament packages up, their discount packages up. Go to game7baseball.com, find out what those are, and get yourself registered today.
Yeah, don't forget some of them in pretty soon.
Yeah,
because there's a.
I think there was a December 7th
first
one.
week in December on the early because we're
there you go. Look at that.
We're taking advantage of several of them. So yep,
everybody knows.
Got to get the bills paid by the beginning of December.
That's it, or that's what Dave said. Or if you don't, it'll fall off. The discount will fall off. So if you haven't paid, so if it's in your cart, make sure you get that done before the first week of December. There you go. Good. Look at that.
It's good to have coaches on here.
Exactly. And we do. Our guest today, Tim Kasmarzik, the Soto Battle Dragons. That name right there is making the top 10 list. That's one of those killer names. It's not the Tigers, the Bears, and Lions, and the basic stuff. It's the Battle Dragons. I dig that. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I've been very much looking forward to it, and this cold weather, and I'm like, it's snowing out, but hey, we're gonna go talk baseball. So actually, it'll be cranking up before we know it. We'll be in there in January, starting to get our work in. So it'll be here already starting to plan things out. So
what do you guys do in a small town?
Oh, wait a minute.
Okay.
Gotta wait.
All right.
Sorry, don't mean to whack you, and my co-host, the big dude over there to my right, Mitch Thomas.
Everybody
Mitch,
knows who I am.
how you doing, buddy?
I'm good.
Good. Go ahead.
I forgot. Squirrel. They all know me. Most of these people that watch me probably are not fans. I'm mean.
It's true.
I am a mean guy. No, I'm not really. So I was just curious on, being from a small town down there, what do you guys do for indoor training? Do you guys utilize high schools?
He's getting right into it.
Or do you guys use do you have facilities down there?
So I want to say, I guess our second year, and I'll get to that later, how we kind of got started. He and I talked about earlier, but our second year, we did use a place in Festus that you could rent out. That place has since then closed. So I'm fortunate to be an educator and a middle school athletic director, so I can get us in a gym pretty well anytime I want. So we're bringing in portable mounds and throwing up nets and stuff in there in January and getting our work in that way.
That's awesome. I remember that's what we used when I grew up playing baseball. We didn't have a bunch of cages. We had Jared Daniels over there by Bigfoot growing up, but there are very few batting cages, so we practiced a lot in middle schools or elementary schools. Not so much the high school level, but we practiced inside those smaller gyms. And I remember it used to be dirt cheap. Times have changed.
It's dirt cheap when you're with the guy with the keys, which is a nice thing about it.
That's really dirt cheap.
Yeah,
I love that.
I imagine that. Do you just because it's so, it seems like there's a batting cage everywhere in this town. I mean, we talked about last week. O'Fallon has maybe 5 or 6 in that area between O'Fallon, Wentzville, whatever. And I just was curious on what you guys do for small towns. I travel to Mexico a lot to hunt. I'm an outdoors guy.
Yep,
me too. There's not a gym up there, and there's a lot. And I mean, I would consider that maybe a bigger town than DeSoto or Festus, and there's still not batting cages up there.
Is Mexico a little bigger up there that way?
I feel like it is. I mean, driving through it makes it feel like it's a little bigger.
Sure.
going through Mexico, I mean, it has a Kroger.
Yeah, that's how. Well,
Yes, it does.
I
bet,
was
yeah.
in Palmyra all weekend.
Oh, yeah, there you
So I can relate and kind of driving around looking at, hey, where's your ball field at in this town type
There's
thing.
not.
So
It's high school.
Yeah, I saw the Facebook post.
Yes.
You got it was your son.
my
that got
son,
the,
yes,
Yeah, got
yep,
the deer.
yep,
yeah.
yesterday. So
A big one?
it wasn't. It was a small one, but he was thrilled with it and stuff, and he's
all that
skilled a
matters.
few. Now
That's
we put in
cool.
a lot of hours this weekend trying to get something big and didn't work out. And last night he was ready to make it happen, and we did. So he was probably just as excited as anything. So it was good.
What's it? I'm not much of a deer hunter. I have to move around. I don't have patience whatsoever. That's the reason why I don't coach like 10U and 11U, 12U baseball, or even train those kids. So what is it like to sit there and have that deer walk up to you? What kind of feelings do you get? And to relate that to baseball.
It's that similar, just heart pounding, adrenaline,
Yeah.
and I don't claim to be a good deer hunter because I lack patience. I like to move around, and I get way more excited about sports and outdoors is pretty much all I want to do.
Yeah.
Any chance I get. So, there's other things that I like to do as well, but it's that kind of that, everything's on the line kind of adrenaline rush type thing.
You get one shot, and
Yes, that's it.
That's how I look at it with baseball. It's like when I would come up in that clutch situation, in that last inning, or it's a walk-off opportunity, runner at second base. I need to have a single or base hit to win the game. That energy that I have then is the same kind. I'm a big waterfowl guy, so I love when the geese are locked up, getting ready to come in, and that energy I have is the same that I don't want to miss, because it might be your only shot that day.
It's what you've been waiting for.
Yes.
It's what you put in the hours.
And that's how I look at it, like the feel of sports. If you can kind of get the energy of what hunting feels like, because a lot of people, some people frown on it. I'm like, man, the emotions of it, the excitement of it.
Sure,
like sports.
It ultimately feeds our family. We especially nowadays the way groceries are and stuff. Like if we can put 3 or 4 of them in the freezer, that
I'm
helps
supporting
things
my
out.
local farmer.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of money on farming this year, beef.
Yeah,
and
that's
pigs.
about all we get from too. So
All right, let's talk a little baseball, sportsmanship, all that. Tim, we kind of connected. That was a couple weeks ago, after we'd talked about teams. You'd seen the show, and we appreciate it. And I thought it was interesting because independent teams, we talk so much about club baseball because as it is, that's kind of where it is. So I think it's great. I love the independent thought process, and then of course, Battle Dragons. How do you not love that?
yeah.
I mean, it's just simple as that. So, independent ball, you're in DeSoto. You're on the outskirts. You're just south of Arnold, just kind of west of
Kind of
Festus.
southwest of Festus type thing. We're approximately 40 miles from St. Louis, give or take, depending on where you're coming from. There's some kids that live out rural, a little more so than others. So
Yeah. So, independent baseball. And, how'd you guys get started?
So this was back to 2020, and prior to that, like I was telling you earlier, Little League baseball is still a big part in DeSoto, and actually it's the oldest Little League charter west of the Mississippi River. So at the time my son was 9, and kids that age, at that point, very few kids and parents want to commit to the travel and playing club ball with an 8 or a 9-year-old. So when COVID hit in 2020, everything was getting pushed back. There was some baseball still going on. Things were booking up very fast, as I found out later. But our local Little League, which all of our kids were signed up for, sent out a message saying they were pushing things back to August. My son came to me about with tears in his eyes, like, Dad, I just want to play baseball. When I told him that, and I thought, you know what? Well, can we do something about this?
That's brutal, man.
So I made a couple calls to a couple guys, like, hey, let's see if we can get 12 kids together and go play ball. Like, this was literally just going to be, hey, this will hold us over till we can go play Little League again, going on 4 years ago now. So from that, the first 12 parents that said, yeah, our kids want to play, and we had a range from 8-year-olds to 10-year-olds that first year going to go play 10U ball. we had 2 practices on, and my wife wanted me to get a picture of it. I didn't get a chance to. Just a old shaggy grass field. I mean, grass was like that. You're going to lose baseball. We had 2 practices, and then we were jumped in. And we were going to play a league, and we were going to play 2 tournaments out of it. And from that, I had some. And I can't say no. I have awesome parents. They started out reaching a local sponsor. That's a benefit of the small independent baseball is we're so dirt cheap. It's unreal. But we rely a lot on fundraising and local sponsorship. Well, my parents start getting these sponsors, and they're like, all right, who do we write these checks out? I'm like, I'll just write them out to me. And my wife's like, no, we can't just have these businesses aren't going to be one to write out checks just to some individual. And I was like. She's like, we gotta go get a non-for-profit. And luckily, she's way smarter about this stuff than what I am. So she went through and did that legwork of registering as a non-for-profit and things like that. And then from there, we're like, maybe this thing is more than just a one-year deal. And here we are heading into year 4, and it's just gotten bigger and better every year.
Your wife taking on the old non-for-profit deal, that's big stuff, man. I've done it. It's not
I'm glad she does that, and I'm glad she has a finance degree and handles that part of
there
it.
There we go.
You got all the pieces and parts and places.
Yeah, I'm always, the first thing I do, I was like, who out there needs to do some pro bono work? Somebody needs to handle these non-for-profits. I looked at it, and then we're talking months. I'm like, this is way over my education. And so that's tough. Good for her.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Good for her.
And because it's not just an easy thing to do that.
Right.
So
yeah, it was way more than
huge.
just showing up and
it's not signing
baseball.
up 6 lines of something. You know what I mean? That is for sure.
You've got, you said you had 12 kids on the roster.
Going into our 2023 roster. That's what we've kept.
And you've got, so how many kids have played for you since that time?
So I have 7 of those kids are been with us for year 4. Several of those have even played Little League together before that. So we have about, I want to say, at least 6 kids that they've played together like 5 years now, coming into 12-year-olds. So the relationships they've built through that's just been, it's phenomenal.
I love that part of it. Go ahead.
You said something about Little League. Is that what's associated with what we see on TV, Little League World? Okay,
yes.
So I just wanted to make sure I clarified. I heard that you said that, and I know that we have some Little League affiliation in the state still. I didn't realize that we had some this close to St. Louis.
So, and a lot of our kids are still playing Little League also, and I encourage it. I like that part of it. So, and it's a lot of fun too, because I think this year I had about 7 of my kids also played Little League, and they all got busted up. There's 4 different teams, so right off, and they have a draft, and right off the get-go, they're generally the first ones taken off, and they're on different teams. So whenever, you're pitching to a guy that you've been playing with for 4 years, and they're, laughing, a guy gets a hit off somebody and grins at the pitcher and things like that. Like, it's a blast, and I generally help coach the team too, just, once you get titled as a coach, you don't ever lose that title. So, I'm coaching against guys that, also play for me on the weekends and stuff like that. So, but yeah, and actually you talk about the Little League World Series thing, and that's a 12U thing. So a bunch of my guys, and they have their all-star team is ultimately how it's done. So a bunch of my guys were, on the all-star team, and we actually won our district out of Cape, and we actually, when we went to outside of Kansas City and played in the Little League State Tournament, some of my same kids that play on our Battle Dragons team, and we actually saw the team from Webb City that was a game away from winning the Little League World Series.
Right.
And they're doing some homework. That is a AAA major level select team also that, plays Little League. So this year, most of my guys will actually be in their 12U year and are going to do it again. Some of them, back 2 years ago, as 10-year-olds played up in the 12U division for competition-wise, and ended up being on the 12U, all-star team. So they've had some experience doing that as well. So
that's going to be good. I got to ask this question though in reference to the Little League World Series, and I'll let Brian get to asking all the other good stuff. I'm going to try to say this the most politically correct way, I guess, that I need to. Watching the Little League World Series drives me bonkers. Mostly it's the pitching distances.
It's very different. It's a different game. We've had to coach our kids down from it too. Whenever.
Well, I don't have this experience, and so I had to ask this. Is it? So you have to practice again back at those pitching distances and what we see on TV.
Yes.
Is that what you guys play in at 12U locally as well?
Yes. Yep. It's and then no leadoffs, and we've literally went before. had a carload of our players driving them from a tournament to a Little League game where they're changing uniforms in the car. Like, I'm dumping them out, in the first inning, and then they're going to take a lead off, and the umpire's like, "What is he doing?" I'm like, "Hey, he just left the tournament." Like, I'll have him dial it back a little bit, but.
All right. Well, I just it drives me crazy because these kids can obviously swing it. They're really athletic kids. They can absolutely pitch at every other distance. They can play the game a particular way at a high level and still be entertaining.
Sure.
It drives me bonkers because I feel like it's not the real age group.
Right, and something about it too. The bats are so they got to be USA stamp bats. The bats are extremely dumbed down. It's not your U-trip bats, but yeah, it's different, and
It's like hitting with a wood bat, isn't it?
It is. It's not much beyond that, but yeah, whenever it came, we wrapped up our tournament schedule right before the All-Stars started, about a week before. So then we had a week to get them. All right, you've played this many games throwing a 50-foot. Now you're going to throw it 46 and get them used to that and stuff. So
you know what? I think those guys are going to be able to obviously when they get to the next levels, they're going to be able to adjust. We try to practice that now when guys are in the front of the batter's box, the back of the batter's box, when you have to adjust your off-speed pitches. How your fastballs and stuff like that, just based on where guys stand and trying to pay attention to that. Those are adjustments, and for a 12-year-old to be able to make those and then be efficient and effective, that's good information. I mean, that's some talented kids.
That's something I want is players to be more. And I've talked and I'll get into that too. I talked to him earlier about we're having a relationship with our local high school coach and stuff. Is I don't want our guys to go in and just be robotic. I want them to be able to do things on their own and think. Like we don't do it all the time, but I like when I can let my catchers call the game because they need to understand it, and the pitcher understand why to throw this guy change up here, or why do I need to set him up outside and learn from that.
That's good stuff. Well, and that goes to this, you hold your tryouts. It's a little bit different, you don't have as big a pool to choose from, but you said you got a player from Arnold, Park Hill,
and one from Hillsborough, and we had 9 DeSoto kids.
9 DeSoto kids. So it's cool. I like the fact that it's DeSoto, the high school, but you are pulling some kids over that are because you're having success.
Sure.
And like, let's go play over there. What do you attribute that to?
I think we have part of this is a couple of the other DeSoto kids that have came to us, and some of them in other cases have played club ball in St. Louis, and just more or less establishing, and we're not just a team that was thrown together like the first year or two. Like, hey, these guys aren't going anywhere. The kids are progressively getting better, and like I said, when this started, we talked about, or after it started and got rolling, like how cool would it be to have this group of kids that starts off as 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds and plays together on up through high school. Like how much further ahead are you going to be when these kids, know the insides and outsides of one another and get that team aspect. You don't have all these individuals coming together trying to form a high school team. You have a team.
I love that.
The high school coach has got to love it. He's got to love it because he's going to get a group of guys that have an understanding. And as a part of the education system, I'm sure that you see what that coach wants.
Yes.
As a guy, and then now you're preparing kids to walk in as a freshman prepared.
Yes.
And I'm sure as a small school, some of those kids might have a chance to play varsity.
Yeah.
I guess the school's not that small. In
right.
You're competitive down there.
They're class 5.
We were 5A last
really?
year in baseball, yes.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize you were that big of a class. I know the Crodinger family from down there through softball.
Okay,
and
yes.
So I've obviously paid attention to the DeSoto sports just to become a fan of those athletes. And so I just didn't realize it was that big of an actual draw.
Yeah, we're on the small side of a 5A. But no, as you're saying with our baseball coach, Matt Beesting, he's been there a while. He's a very good coach. He reached out to me a couple years ago, knew what we were doing. Was like, hey, do you guys want to come to practice? So
that's cool.
A time or two a year, we go to the varsity practice. The coaches get to watch and pick up on things. The kids can break off, and like when they do some group stuff, say my outfielders will go watch their outfielders, my corner infielders will go to their corner infielders and watch. And from that, I'll talk to them about things. And some of them, one of the assistant coaches has a nephew on my team, so he's been to practices and games and can give us input. And we'll ask them about drills, or they emailed me their bunt coverages. So these guys are going to roll into high school, hopefully, running the same bunt coverage that the varsity runs, and hopefully just to make a smooth transition with it.
That's awesome. That's something that I've always wished this town could do. That's why I felt like high school was for Legion. You know, high school prepared Legion for that because there was similar coaches, or they had communicated. Now it's just about egos and you know, people getting in the way of kids' success. And I coach at Timberland in high school, and we don't have the ability to have a team full of Timberland kids to be able to walk into high school to have an understanding of what the expectations are.
Like I said, we've at the beginning it was all the Soto kids, and then it was, you know, kind of as people move on, like, all right, do we want to just keep it just a Soto, or do we want to be more competitive? So, you know, nobody's gonna take a kid from a surrounding town who's a great ball player and tell him, no, we're just gonna, you know. So we've expanded a little bit.
I wouldn't.
No, we've expanded a little bit from then, you know. And when we had a tryout this year, we had, I think, 4 or 5 different kids from all from different towns, you know, that had either heard about us or knew someone, or like I said, I've had a couple different kids from different club teams that have played against us and then later reach out to me about a tryout and come try out and things like that.
That's when you know you're doing a good job, is when people are reaching out to you and say, I've seen you on the ball field handle yourself. That's cool.
I think there's the thing. You know, we were talking earlier, just sitting around chit-chatting, getting to know Tim. We talk about dad coaches here with club baseball and things like that. And I think there's to everything there's pros and cons. We know that. As a dad, and then I think as an educator, you know, how do you take and put those things together to put those kids in the best possible position? You're getting information evidently from the high school coaches. So what are the other things you've done to help yourself and help these kids grow?
Like I was got to a little bit earlier. I encourage them to get that outside instruction. My own son does, and we're fortunate. We've got, I would put him up against anybody around a hitting coach. Derek Gibson from Bonterre, he played at SEMO. He played in single A and double A with the Cardinals. More than half of my kids go to him every week, all winter through the ball season, and he and I have that open communication to where, hey, if this is what a kid's working on, or this is what a kid's struggling on, I can apply that to our practice too. It's you know, you hear stories about, all right, they're hearing this from hitting coach and this from dad and this from their actual coach, and it's got to blow a kid's mind. But
especially at that age.
Yeah, and you know, he'll send me a text on a Sunday, all right, how'd so and so do this week, and he did this, and we can, you know, take that knowledge and apply that and have that everything headed in the same direction with all that.
It's a professional athlete that's wanting to have information for these kids to make them better, and then continuing to build that athlete up. I think that's fantastic on as a hitting coach myself to hear that, you know, he cares. Like, hey, what'd you guys do this week? And I'm sure he does that with everybody too. Probably all of his clients. And
I want to say he works a full-time job and he sees about 60 kids a week, because like you have to. It's tough to get. It gets tough to get in there, and they go through their 30-minute hitting instruction, and then he's got equipment there where they do a little CrossFit type circuit workout to go with that too. So it's awesome, and the kids love it, and the kids, like I said, I've got some awesome kids. I've got some kids that want to work, and they want to get better, and they care about it, and they care about not just for themselves, just for the team aspect. And we get done with a practice. Very rarely do I not have 3 or 4 kids that, hey, we hit me some more ground balls, we hit some fly balls, and we've literally got to turn the lights off on kids.
Yeah, that's a culture thing. So my theory has always been it takes 3 years to build culture the way that you want, and that is the process of you know, losing some kids, adding some kids. It was like that at the college experience I had. Even in my own program as a coach, I feel like that 3 years is that good mark where you start to build your culture. Is this a culture that you had already coming in from the kids and the families that you've had, that like the work ethic was already there for them, or is this something that you help push, create as a coaching staff?
I think you're 100% right with the 3-year thing. Like I was saying, year 1, it was the first 12 kids that wanted to played, and he looked at, I don't remember what you said, or I said it or you said it earlier. We played like 18 ball games. We went like 3-16, something like that. At the beginning of the season, we were still completely overmatched. But we had two teams that stick out of mind. They both 10-runned us and shut us out, and we played them later in the summer, and we beat one of them by a run, and then the other one beat us on a walk-off, and then we were like, you know what, we may have something going here. We get into year 2, and we just, wanted to try to build some success and some confidence with the kids. We were kind of stuck in that between, hey, we're probably better than a rec or single-A team, but we're not ready to go play with these AA club teams yet. So we did some winning in year 2 and got that confidence there, and then this last year we played a tougher schedule. You said, what were we?
You're 18, 12-1.
Okay, yeah.
According to your game changer.
Yes, yeah, like 18, 12-1. Last year playing a tougher schedule, and I would say, like I said, year 3 things are, that's where things were. We were near where we needed to be. Kids were learning to not just work hard, but to battle through adversity. What happens when things aren't going well, and it's not all about the success part of it. You got to learn how to deal with the other parts of it. And then headed into year 4, like I said earlier, we're already signed up in several Game 7 tournaments, and we're ready to get after it.
Game 7's fun. They've been good to us for my 14U team as well. We moved to the high school side, so.
I love the fact that we've talked about this at length, Mitch and I on this show, and I believe these things, and it's something I wish that we would do a little more. And you did that. We as a coach or a club or whatever, you have an understanding of AA, AAA, whatnot. But I love the fact that now you're seeing where do you fit. You've played 3 years now. We're here, and I wish, I understand the designations are there, but I love that approach. And was that a thought process? I know you have to classify your team, and that's fine. But then you can go play anywhere and see where you're competing at. Was that the thought process in that?
Back whenever we started, I do remember my son and I going to watch another, which I've coached middle school basketball. This is my first year not doing. I've done it for 11 years, and I was able to pass that on, which it's been great. But everything takes time, that's for sure. But going to watch one of my basketball players play in a pretty high level tournament, and I told my son and another boy that was with us that day, like, by the time you guys are 12, like, that's where we can be. Like, that's where we can be. And with that, you can have a plan, but then you've got to adapt and adjust along the way. And like I said, you're going to have a moving parts here and there, but we have a phenomenal core group of kids and a phenomenal core group of parents that have bought in. They trust us on everything we do with their kids, and that means a lot.
The buy-in.
Right.
The buy-in.
At any level.
Yeah, at any level, and I like to hear this, because at the end of the day, like, again, small town team, keeping a core together, that's the one thing I've always wanted to do as well, is keep a core together. I don't want to change players every year. I don't want to have trying to replace 10 guys every year and I only get to keep 3 or 4, because again, culture being built, it's hard to teach that every single year. The players usually manage themselves at a certain point, right? If you have a good core group, those guys will manage the team more than you will at this point. And at least that's what I feel. And I just love that, you talked about the buy-in, the growth, the playing at this level. You didn't sell yourself as something particular. You said, let's have 12 kids together. You didn't care. Figure it out. Year 2, you made some changes. Year 3, you made some changes. Year 4, you made some changes, but you still kept 7, 8 guys together. That core builds your culture.
Yeah, and the new guys coming in, it's been positive, and we've got I guess, like I said, we have 7 kids that are with us for year 4. We have 3 that are second year players, and one of them drives 40 minutes to practice for every practice, and they're 100% bought in. Like, they, and in the back of your mind, whenever you pick a kid up that, our player from Park Hills, pick a kid up from 40 minutes away, you're going, all right, is this going to be a one-year thing until they find something else? But they bought in 100%. They're like, yeah, if you'll have him again, we want to be a part of this. Like, absolutely.
Yeah,
so.
you don't turn down players. I have, I'm sure as you grow, you're going to draw a kid from an hour away. You might draw a kid from Jackson one day, especially if you play down in Cape, or Farmington and things like that. You might draw some of those kids in. Because again, I know Cape's bigger, but Farmington's still relatively small.
Yeah, we've had kids that way reach out or come to tryouts and things like that.
Yeah, and they'll dedicate themselves to it. One, they're spending the money to do it anyways, right? So they're going to want to be a part of that and not get left behind as far as the team aspect goes. And I have a kid comes from Mark Twain High School. I've had kids come from Palmyra. I've had kids come from Scott City to come play for me, and I'm like trying to push them away, like save your gas mileage during the week. Don't drive the 4 hours. Just see me on the weekends. Do your lessons during the week, like
Sure.
Just but it's amazing to see what kids and families will do to get the coaching that they want, and we've talked about it all the time on this show. Vet your coach. And when people are doing that, they're gonna want to be a part of that process.
Do you? And there it goes to it, because as we've talked about, you're in a place where people will drive. In Arnold, there's clubs in South County that I'm sure you deal with and understand where they're at. And parents can take their kids. They will drive that hour back up there to go to those places and to play ball. So I think the culture is huge in how you're building that. And in that perspective, what do you have to keep doing there to create that, to hold those people in place, as opposed to them bolting and going, especially if you're having more success, right?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
maybe the clubs start calling then. They see that kid, they're like, hey, come play with us. Because regardless, people are trying to get better and compete and be competitive. And clubs, I know, it's recruiting, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm part of the process. As far as we have a small club, but I'm part of that process. And so you got guys driving south to play for you, not north going to St. Louis, which is a much big, metropolitan area. So I think that's big time for you to be able to draw south, if
Sure,
you will,
yes.
versus kids going to St. Louis.
Yeah, and there's a fit and a place for everybody.
Sure.
From playing your local rec leagues to the kids just want to be a part of something, to all the way up to traveling every weekend. There's a place for every family. Just finding out what works for you and what do you want out of this.
And there's the thing, we talk about vetting coaches. Do you sit down and talk with the families? What is that process? How do you work through some of those things?
So we start as soon as the next season ends, or even before the season ends. My coaches and I are talking about, all right, what do we want to see next year and things like that. And find out, hey, and we develop somewhat of a plan for the next year. Then I'll communicate that with parents. Hey, this is what I'm going to do next year. Who's in type thing. And from that, we go with, all right, how many spots do we have to fill? What do we need from that? This year we did something a little different that we decided, and I've never caught a kid. From that, I've had those conversations like, hey, this is what, especially now as we get 11, 12 years old, I'm very much a realist with, my students, my athletes, my own kid, telling them, all right, so it comes around, it's crunch time on a Sunday, we're in a close game, or just in general against good competition, you're not going to, get as much playing time. You need to be okay with that before you commit to us, or put in the work this is your challenge to put in the work to get to that top 9 or top 10. I don't know where I even started with that.
I know what you're saying.
But this year, something we did different is.
But you're getting that buy-in from the parents.
Yes,
with that.
we had every kid try out our existing roster, which we hadn't done. We're going into year 4. Like, you know what? We need every kid here. Doesn't need anything just handed to them as far as a spot. We need everybody to try out. So we had tryouts open to the public and of our existing players. We held like 3 different tryouts, and from then we were able to form our roster.
So how did that go for you with having those conversations, being a small independent team, a small town independent team? Did parents say, hey, this is 12U? Did you have some feedback that wasn't so great with having conversations with 12-year-olds like that?
No, whenever we had I don't feel like it. Like I said, after the tryouts, when we had those conversations, the parents seemed to understand, because we didn't have just with the kid. We had the parent and the kid and had those conversations. And like I said, I feel like kids, need to learn to work
Compete.
for things. Yes, and to compete. And,
Stop
and
comparing.
they need to see the benefit of the hard work. Hey, I'm working hard and I'm doing this, so I'm going to be rewarded. Hey, I need to do this if I want to get to that point. I think that's not just baseball. That's going to apply to so much more for them later on in life.
Heck yeah.
And I think then the accountability then is transferred to the coaches, right? Because if that kid is working hard and he's doing it and he's showing the improvement, you're seeing it. And then the coaches have to make sure they're aware of that, they're seeing that, and they're giving him giving that player the opportunity in those moments because you've earned it.
You've earned
Absolutely.
And that's where the accountability shifts. If the kid's going to put in the work, the parents do that, and then the coach doesn't, then that's on the coach.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's where culture changes too, is when you tell a family like, hey, you need to put in the work, and then when they put in all this work, you don't give them an opportunity. It might only be one, but you have to give the opportunity for what your message is, else you're just, it's smoke. You know?
Yes.
And
I agree.
it's not good for your culture of your team to just say, hey, I need you to work this hard, so I'll give you, you want to play in a bracket game, you want to play in a championship game, we'll do this. Well, when you go do that and you don't reward that athlete, it might not be the next week. Again, like I said, it could be 2 weeks down the road. You need to see consistency out of the work ethic in order to make that.
And I'm somebody that I'll never give up. And that's the educator me, a kid that wants to give me the effort. I'm never going to give up on a kid like that. And I think that's where we'll probably always do league, because that's where that comes to play. And kids change so much, and kids can get those opportunities to earn that time in league. And generally how we do it in league this last year, all right, a kid that never came out all weekend long in a tournament, you know what, you're going to sit every other inning in league play. We're going to give these guys an opportunity to do different things. And like I was telling him, when you get rainouts and a schedule gets just piled up and you play 4 or 5 games on a weekend, and then you play Monday, Tuesday league, everybody's a pitcher. Like, if you didn't pitch this weekend, hey, you're going to pitch today, bud. Raise your hand if you want to get on the mound.
The rubber, here you go. Today's your day.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, he's firing fastballs. You're like, hey, I didn't know you could do that.
Absolutely. We've all seen it.
It happened to me this year. My catcher, I was like, one day he comes out of nowhere and says, Coach, I can pitch. And I was like, you can? He goes out and throws like 9 or 11 pitches and gets out of the inning. Like, I'm like, you just pumped a bunch of fastballs like right down the middle of the plate. Like, I
have my closer.
Like, here we go.
And
like,
that gives kids an opportunity to play other positions too, because I never want to have a kid that's just a first baseman or just a shortstop, whatever it may be, because you never know when you get on a different team in high school. Other kids come in high school or beyond high school.
Okay.
You may be doing something completely different than you've ever done before, and if you've just played this one position the whole time, you're hurting the kid.
You get cut.
We just because we were just talking with Coach Wiggins he's at Webster Groves. That was the thing. He said this player may have played this, and this. He says, but freshman JV, we're finding out what this player can do and where he best fits within our scope of things. He may be, left fielder, but I need him at first base. I need this. And can he play at that level? Can he do those things? It is such a different game. And we've seen that throughout. You've seen it at the high school level from a freshman where you played maybe as a freshman. Are you getting those reps at JV in another place? Because I've got this kid here that's got 2 more years playing shortstop or second base. Well, I got to fill right field.
Yeah, and I will. My own son is left-handed. So where does a left-handed one play? And early on, he played first base. Well, he also runs very well. And I told him when he was about 9, like, dude, you need to be an outfielder. I said, because if you want to play later on,
be scary to
I
a
said,
9-year-old.
I said, there's going to be a giant that can hit the ball a mile, and that's the first baseman, and you're going to be sitting there cut. Like I said, we can be realistic about things. And I've hit him buckets and buckets of fly balls, and he loves it now. It's what he loves, to go out in the outfield and go run down a baseball or go try to throw somebody out. Like, and very few kids that age specialize as outfielders.
Yeah.
It's because I think every household says that's where players go to die.
So we go that
we have him in right
stigma
field.
is there, and that's something
that's
been a transition with kids and parents too. Is like, if you make an error in the infield, hey, that guy might get first base. You make an error out there in the outfield, they're circling the bases on
They
you.
could,
Like,
right? You see it in the big leagues. Like how many, like Nolan Arenado, what, 10, 12 errors this year he had. And it's not a big deal. You don't think about it. But imagine if one of our outfielders for the Cardinals had 3.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it just it could change the dynamics of a game, to have those kinds of errors. And it's the last line of defense. It's like, I put a premium on outfield help. And, we've had, at Timberland, we've had shortstops all the way up to, that are really good, sophomores and juniors, but we always have a senior kid that's just lights out. Well, this kid's too athletic not to play. Let's start shagging fly balls. Like,
Yes,
if you can get kids
absolutely.
to say, hey, what is the best for the team? I did that with my own daughter. My daughter caught for me for a long time. I got a kid from Montgomery County to come catch for me. Their biggest concern was that was my daughter that was catching before. I said, listen, if she's better than my daughter, she's going to play over my daughter. And I did that 3 different positions for her. It happened to me when I was in high school to college. Somebody came in a little better than me, but I could hit enough. So I hit my way into the lineup. So they said, okay, well, you got to practice it now first base. I ended up being an all-conference first baseman and went to college and played first base. Then I caught because our catchers got hurt. So it's one of those things, like, you never know how your path might circle back around.
Absolutely.
If he grows up to be 6'4", he could find himself back at first base and a left-handed pitcher.
Sure.
Versus just being a center fielder.
right. And they do. I like play different kids at different spots. And again, that's where that
Has he
league
played
play.
shortstop yet?
You know what? I'll
That's
tell
what
you
league
know
plays
what?
for. I'm just
No,
kidding.
in Little League, I'm going to be completely honest with you. As we've talked about Little League and things like that, and our kids getting busted up, and the shortstop on his Little League team was pitching, and like I said, I'm just helping the manager, and he says, hey, can he play shortstop? He's like the only one that can make the throw over there. I was like, it's your team. You can do what you want. And he will ask the catch in a Little League game. I was like, all right, here's the deal. If you're going to catch, if anybody attempts to throw, I don't care where your throw goes, you better jump up and try to gun them out. Like that's the stipulation. If you're going to go back there, you better throw.
Yeah. So he's got an arm.
We'll get you out of here on this. We talked a little bit about where you guys go and play and searching out competition. You're playing a lot of tournament baseball. You're still in league, but what's the thought process about how you set up your schedule and what you want to do with the kids and give them the opportunities to experience for baseball?
Like I said, I think the more you can experience, the better, obviously. And like I said, we're signed up for different tournaments. This is our first year doing Game 7, so we're pretty much signed up all Game 7 tournaments. We played it at Ballparks National last year in Lake the Ozarks in a non-sanctioned tournament, and we're playing at Ballparks of America this year in May. But just letting those kids see what's out there. Like I was telling you earlier, we had this in the experience of the out-of-town thing. We wanted to do one out-of-town experience because kids are going to remember that.
Yeah.
Our Ballparks national trip last year, I think, was kind of the aha turning point. We went down there. You go down there, and it's, like I said, it's open tournament. So in my mind, as we're driving down, I'm going, okay, are we going to get beat by 20 runs every one of these games? So we get down there, and they have their skills competition on Thursday night. And you pick 4 of your players to do around the horn, and the guys can base run, and of course the home run derby. Well, 4 of my guys win the home run derby, and people are already kind of just buzzing around a little bit, and I was like, okay, and we go Thursday night, and we have a practice time like 8:00 at night, and our coaches got together afterwards. We're like, that's the best practice we've ever had. And rolling into that, still we watched some games, and I'm somebody that. And my wife knows, and it probably drives you crazy, I'll watch every single pool play game I can possibly watch because we may play that team later and there may be a little bit something to pick up on. So we watched a couple pool play games, and it's phenomenal baseball. And I'm going, okay, I'm still wondering in my mind, do we belong here at this point? And we go out in our pool play games, and we win one and tie one. The one that we won, you could tell the first 3 innings we were kind of in shell shock, and then we were down 6-2 and come back and won the game 8-6 in the 6th inning. Tied a very good team. And then so in this open tournament, we find our way to the gold bracket on Sunday. We play a team from the St. Louis area that plays AAA major baseball, and we played, and I looked back at the box score last night because I don't want to be wrong about it. We played a extra inning, 7-inning, 4-3 ball game in about an hour and 45 or an hour and 50 minutes. Our pitcher walked one and struck out one. I mean, there was hard-hit baseballs everywhere and plays being made on them. And even after the game, the umpires called both teams out and was like, hey, this is phenomenal baseball. There is no losers here. And going away from that, I'm like, you know what? This is where we belong. We can do this type of thing. Even though the kids, some of them were a little bit heartbroken losing in a one-run walk-off game at that level. But as coaches and hopefully the parents too thought, you know what? This is what we can do, and we can take this and we can build that. And from then on out, our season just went up, and that's kind of going into this year that we're ready to get after it.
Was that at the 11U age group?
It was 11U,
11U.
yes.
And are you playing AA this year, or are you starting out at like the AAA level for
We're
Game 7?
We're playing AA with Game 7 this
I
year.
think that's good.
Yeah, it's a good start. You got to identify where you're at.
I've somewhat familiar with some of those other teams, and my son did some subbing last year at the AA, AAA level, and was able to see where some of those teams are and where some of those teams are at. So
I love that, because that to me is one of those moments that's a learning moment of what real sportsmanship is. You go out and compete like crazy, and you don't give an inch. You put it in there. That team made one more play than you guys did, and that's when you step back and you respect the guy. You tip your cap, you shake hands, and well played game, and you give respect. But I don't have to give an inch during the game, and I'm not going to. And that's where that competitiveness teeters on. You have to keep those emotions in place and whatnot, and teaching those kids how to do that, because that's where those are the moments to me that really make an impact moving forward with the kids. Agreed?
Sure, absolutely. In our name, the Battle Dragons, we kind of use that word battle as kind of a mantra for us. Is that, hey, I don't care if we're down 5 runs. We're going to keep battling and battle through every last at bat and every last strike and until this thing's over. And when the dust settles, we'll see who's where.
Exactly.
I got one more for you. Has anybody in the town asked if you wanted to be a organization, like his other coaches from Little League or other age groups, 9, 10, even some of your other coaches that may have younger
That's
kids?
curious, yeah.
Have you had those conversations where they want to kind of merge with your guys' culture?
So yes, and it's kind of in both ways. We've had people kind of reach out to us about joining something else, and this is our thing, so I want it to be our thing. But I would love, for our community's sake, for it to grow. If somebody were to come to me and say this year, hey, I want to start a 10U team, I would set them in the right direction to roll with things and be kind of our way to give back to the community and to keep competitive baseball at a youth level there.
Yeah, that's what we always talk
That's
about
awesome.
Community here, for sure. And
It takes bodies, it takes the right people, but
it's still, even though they wear a Battle Dragons uniform, I mean, even for us, like we are a club, an organization, whatever you want to call us, our teams operate independently. Like, I don't require them to do things. I guess I'm your director of our program, but I let them choose the levels of play that they think that their teams are. I don't want to dictate to try to get kids to come in from all of the larger organizations or whatever. I want you to play and compete with what you have, like what your team is. I don't want to put that pressure on people. And I kind of dig that because that's what would happen, I'm assuming, in your neck of the woods.
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
similar.
If somebody were to come to me, and I've even mentioned it to a couple players that have younger siblings, like, hey, we can throw a team to get things rolling at that lower level and have the groundwork kind of set there.
So love that if that happens.
Let's hope. I mean,
I'm just saying.
But it's gotten a lot bigger and become a much bigger deal than whenever we were just gonna the first 12 kids to raise your hand during the middle of a COVID lockdown. And that I'll go back again to that very first practice that we had after these kids had been home and hadn't seen another kid in 6 weeks. We literally had to drag them off the field. They just wanted to be around one another and play ball. And at that moment, you know what? This is 100% the right thing we're doing right now.
That's awesome.
That's cool how it started too. I didn't know much information. Obviously, a small town guy.
And I think I love the fact how organic it was in that respect. People, community, those are the things to me that I think sometimes we're missing a little bit at the larger scale. At this point, we're pushing. But that community feel, that organic feel, and even, keeping that with the community and the thought process, if people want to do another team, having to help them and do that, but keeping that sense of community. I love that. I think it happens more in the smaller, as we've talked about. I love club baseball. I have no problem with club baseball. I like it. I think it's good. Everything has its pros and cons. I don't care.
Sure.
You can,
and I will say the biggest struggle and the biggest challenge is finding places to practice in fields and stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
we're on wherever we can find a place that we're not going to hit a ball too far into the woods and stuff. We want to go practice there.
You have a lot of
And-
hills out there too.
Yeah, and we
lot
think
of rock.
we think it's and as coaches we kind of take pride in we go play somebody on the weekend and beat them, and they've been practicing here and have this indoor facility and stuff, and we're in a 50-year-old gym or out on a shaggy grass field, and we're gonna go bring it and play.
A lot of Mississippi mud. I guess.
yeah, the chip tooth from the rock in the
Hey,
right.
there's some fields that we practice on that are that way, but I think that kind of makes us who we are, and
I
like
love it. Love it. Tim Kasmarzik.
That's it.
I got to slow down because I don't have it quite yet, but
I'm not trying.
Kasmarzik.
Tim.
Yeah.
That
Tim.
works. Yeah, that's easy enough.
Coach Tim.
DeSoto Battle Dragons. Hey, thanks for taking the
I've
time,
enjoyed it. Thank you for having
Yeah.
me. It's
That was
definitely
a lot
worth
of
taking a
fun.
day off, so
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate that, man. You did that, drove up here, and with wasn't too bad though.
Not at all.
No,
Nope.
good.
He's an outdoorsman. This is easy.
And we're gonna
yeah.
be able. We'll be able to see you out there. I love this. This is the fun stuff for us. This is what I started YBMcast for us. We talk youth baseball.
It's awesome that's out there. That you can go hear about I can't wait to because my kids deserve it. They deserve the recognition. I can't wait to show my send this out to my kids like, hey.
They're going to have to do this, so we're going to do this, and I want to do it because I've got it right here. Now I don't have the one young man. We'll get to that one, but you're going to have to help me with the names. Number 2, Chris Wehage. Okay, Chris Wehage. Karsten Smothers.
Yep.
Carter Kane. Caden Richards. Parker, is it Gullett?
Gullet. Yep.
Parker Gullett. Abel, your son, Kasmarzik. Isaac Christopher. Brian Bell. Braden Howell. Caleb Stiles. Hoyt Hill. And who's the
Wyatt Westbrook.
Wyatt Westbrook, because I didn't have that one on here. Shout out to you guys, Battle Dragons. We'll look forward to you guys. Got to come. We catch at a game 7. We got to do some baseball trivia. His boy's a card collector, dude.
He said, no, that's all he wants for Christmas from everybody. I don't know.
All right. Well, maybe I had to see you again before Christmas. I'll bring him some baseball cards.
There you go.
Sounds good.
I love baseball.
That's how I was whenever I was that age, and I mean he's become borderline obsessed. Like every time we walk into Walmart, I'm gonna go check the baseball
there ain't nothing
card.
there.
Yeah, and I know. Yes, and he came back yesterday like they don't have any baseball cards, Dad. Like
Yeah, the only thing I guess St. Louis is good for right now is the amount of card stores that you can still find out there with product in it, because it's been so tough with. When COVID hit, it was just this big giant boom of resale of cards.
Yeah.
And now it's back to the junk era in 2022. It seems like they overproduce these baseball cards again.
The year I was born, 1985, my dad bought me a box set every year till the time I was about 12. So about 85 through 87 box sets in the basement, and every now and then on a cold, snowy day, we'll go grab a box out and like, all right, I don't think it might have been, it was 88 or 89, we grabbed it out and like, we looked, all right, what are the good rookie cards? Like, here's a Craig Biggio, here's this, we need to put this one in a case, we need to put this one in a case. So it's been fun to do that with my son. It kind of brings me back to those days.
Does he read the cards?
Yeah.
Does he read the backup?
Absolutely.
I swear, where I get my trivia knowledge is things from the 50s, the baseball cards that would do random trivia, not even about the player. But it would do random trivia on the back of baseball cards, and then getting to read about the player, like what they've experienced growing up or anything different like that. I love that. And that 85 set's a really nice set of baseball cards. It's got some players in there.
Yeah, mine's it's unopened, so.
Yeah, don't open that one because it's the only one really that has any value to it. I think like 82, 83, 84. And 85 are the ones, and maybe 86 has a little bit more than the retail price of it as far as resale goes. But that 85 had some players in it.
There you go.
It's your Dwight Goodens and all those guys.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah, Clemens. 85 was a good year.
Baseball. Ballparks of America right there. They're going to be at Ballparks of America.
Third weekend of May.
There you go.
What is it? veterans theme.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot the
Armed
exact name,
Forces
but yeah,
Day.
Armed
I
Forces
gotta
Day.
ask
Day
this.
Classic,
You're going in
yeah.
there as Battle Dragons, so you're gonna go in there in like some military colored like uniforms.
You know, I haven't picked out the uniform for next year yet, so you never know with one of them.
Oh, get a little
we could go
camouflage,
with, we
get
could
a
go
little-
with
yeah,
camo
get a little
option,
camo.
especially
You
with
need
all of our a lot of outdoorsmen on our ball team, so they'd probably appreciate a camo option.
Get your Legion Hall to say,
There you
hey,
go.
pitch in and get me some Army colored uniforms like Vandy's.
There you go.
You know,
Yeah.
go down there and
Yep.
look like Vandy's uniform.
Now we're spending their money.
I know. I
Hey,
said, he said it was cheap to play there. He's getting all these sponsors. I'm like, man, what do I got to do to get a sponsor around here? Like, there's nobody that wants to sponsor teams anymore.
Oh, man.
Great.
Tim, as always, thanks again, man. Do
you, guys.
appreciate it. Mitch, always fun, bro.
Thank you.
Always fun. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Look, hit that subscribe button. And when you hit that subscribe, hit the what?
Dinger.
Because that's what we do around here, right?
We just hit dingers. I got rid of the doubles because
Okay.
we used to hit doubles and dingers, but we just hit dingers.
Hit dingers. I love it. That will get you your notifications for upcoming episodes like this, where we talking baseball all the time. Am I missing anything, Lauren? Am I missing anything?
Don't
No?
forget to follow this guy. You got any
Battle
social media
Dragons.
stuff?
Yep, Facebook page. Yep, Battle Dragons 12U.
Battle Dragons
Check us out.
12U.
Come
Check
watch
out.
us play Game 7.
There you go. Yes, and make sure you're following YBMcast at Youth Baseball Midwest on Instagram and Facebook. There you go. See, I told you she'd help me out. Oh, look at you guys. You can follow Mitch, too, on Instagram. The Hitting Zone.
The hitting zone. I don't know what none of my socials are. I'm 42
I do.
years old. I'm like, this one's like, when are you gonna post? You know, Lauren's like, you haven't made a post in 6 weeks. No, I haven't made a post in 6 weeks. But thanks for checking on them. No, I like this social media thing. Is like, it's funny to me because I forget about how important social media is just in general for communication and information. I think this is fantastic. You know, we've had big clubs on here, we've had small, we've now had independent teams on here. And I think it's just great information that you see that there's a lot of like-minded people that are at the biggest, middle, and the smallest as far as teams go. And there's still a lot of like minds.
Absolutely.
And it's good to see. So definitely hit that bell.
There you go.
Or dinger, whatever it is.
Hit the dinger.
The thing.
Hit the dinger.
Ding.
Hit a dinger. That's what we do.
Is it a bell? It looks like a bell.
Everybody, have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers, keep throwing strikes, and hitters,
Hit him over 380.
that'll do it. We'll see you next time.